Thank you all so much for joining us. It's very special Behind the Gavel with Jason tonight. We have a really wonderful show. We usually do this on Fridays, but we are really excited to bring on a bunch of designers and Peregrine Honig from the West 18th Street Fashion Show and the Summer in Hindsight movie that happened because of that. VanShawn Branch, Alexandra Fellows, Missy, IsaMoore, and Peregrine Honig are here. We're expecting one other guest. But thank you all so much for joining us tonight and talking about the show and your fashion lines.
Yay!
Before I introduce you all individually, I want to talk to you real quick and bring up Brooklyn Love, who is the designer curator of the show, sent me an email. She wanted to be here tonight, but couldn't for other reasons. But she sent me an email about Alexandria in particular, but I think it relates to the show in general, at least what I've noticed from the outside looking in. I've been a fan of the show. I've seen it, but I'm not really involved with it before. And so I want to start with what Brooklyn wrote today to me about the show and Alexandra in particular. Brooklyn said, Alex, just like myself, started as a volunteer with not much experience with sewing. I remember during her first volunteer orientation just a few years ago, as she introduced herself, she mentioned how much she admired the West 18th Street Fashion Show and how she wanted to be chosen for the show as a designer one day. The next year when she volunteered, I paired her with veteran designer Paige Batowski as an intern. A pair seemed like a pair made in heaven as they both flourished. And with some light assistance from Paige this year, Alex was able to put a check mark next to designer for West 18th on her vision board. Watching her get to this point has been remarkable. She worked so hard to get to this, and I couldn't be more proud. I'm really grateful to be a part of such a company and creative community of people. I started off as a model for Megan Gracie and knew I was home. Being 5'2" and a half, yes, a half, I'm obviously not the tallest person in the world. It was hard to find designers to take me seriously as such until I learned of the West 18th Street Fashion Show. So when I have a chance to talk about people like Alex, I do, because I gave her an opportunity I was given. I was able to give her what West 18th Street gave to me. And so with that, I thought Alexandra would be perfect to start with you. Tell us about reading some of the things I found about you online. You were discouraged brutally in the classroom from a professor. You said you wanted to be a runway fashion designer. What led you from that spot to get to where you are today, being not only a runway designer, but a movie designer as well? And just a little bit about your story to get to there.
Well, ever since I was little, I wanted to be a fashion designer, and I went to college for fashion design, and then I had that incident, and so I just got super discouraged. And then I met one of my good friends, and she gave me that kick in the butt that I really needed. She was like, don't let anybody tell you that you can't do something. And that was just what I needed. And then that's what lit the fire and brought it back to me. And then I got involved with West 18th Street as a volunteer, and I'm really glad I did. And the rest is history. And now I'm doing what I love.
That's awesome. That is awesome, Alexandra. I'm from Alexandria, Virginia, so I see it. I just really revert to an old home right there. It's such a great, powerful story, and I'm so glad you could join us tonight to talk about your story and the show and the movie in particular as well.
Thank you.
Missy, glad to be here. Real quick. And people watch, if you have questions, post them below. Every one of these people have Instagram accounts. Alexandra owns Sky Glitter Company. On Instagram, it's SkyGlitter_co. You can find her there through West 18th Street, I'm sure. Missy, let's transition to you real quick. Not only are you a fashion designer dealing in stylish plus-size clothing, you studied interior design, urban planning, and you've produced your own shows. So I'm curious, what led you, there seems like a really kind of a strange mix of things, the interior design, the urban planning, and fashion design. So I'm curious about that, but I'm also curious what it's like to be a designer at a show as opposed to the person who's running the show. And tell us how you got involved with West 18th Street, if you would.
Well, first, I'm very happy to have this opportunity. Producing shows was something that I did with a family member, and we just produced shows to show off the clothes that we were making as hobbies. And it was something that we did for like a community event. How I heard of West 18th is when I was looking into shows here in Kansas City, after coming home from my undergrad in Chicago. I found out that West 18th was this phenomenon, and I was just so shocked that I hadn't heard of it before, and it had been around for, like, at that time when I heard about it, like 17, 18 years, and I was just like shook, like, oh my God, I didn't know that, that looking at pictures on their website of past shows and themes that they were having, it was just like really inspiring because it was like nothing I've seen before. With the outdoor runway, with non-traditional type runway, like props and things of that nature. And I really enjoy like making my art not only linear that walks down a runway, but actually like very much 3D with props and things that you can make it interactive even with the crowd. And so I applied and I was like really, really happy that I did as a designer. And my first show was last year. So after that, I decided that I would like to, because I have like produced shows, and I would like to also help other designers be part of this type of community that is more 3D, more interactive, more untraditional. And then it ended up, being something that I couldn't even imagine in my dreams, like a whole movie. And it's just like that. Who expected that? Like I couldn't have rolled dice and got a better outcome.
Wow, that's awesome. That is such a great story. VanShawn Branch, down in New Orleans, joining us from New Orleans, which I think is awesome. I didn't realize there was designers from around the country at the show. VanShawn, I got to tell you, you're a little bit on my hated list right now. You posted that picture in the Nelson in front of Kuan Yin, which is one of my absolute favorite pieces of art in any museum, in any collection in the world. Before I ask you to talk about that, tell us about what led you to get into fashion. Kaye is your company. You love bold colors and palettes and prints. When you look at his website, hot pink and leopard is there. It's amazing. And you're wearing it like a boss. And I got to tell you, man, it looks cool as hell, but there's no way I could pull off that look. You make bespoke clothing in New Orleans, particularly known for making the tailored trouser, which I think is a cool thing. And the patterns you use on the pants is amazing. Tell us a little bit about your story, how you got to, what led you to fashion, and what led you to being involved in the show in Kansas City, and then rub in the Kuan Yin a little bit, just for good measure.
Well, what led me to fashion? Growing up, I was one of those 18-year-olds that wanted to decorate my bedroom. I was so in love with Ralph Lauren, so I bought everything Ralph Lauren for my bedroom, from the paint to carpet. Everything was Ralph Lauren. So I was one of those guys growing up. Always have been. What led me to pursue fashion? Friends, of course, just like what led me to the West 18th Street. Peregrine, of course, reached out to me and was like, hey, we have our 20th anniversary this year. I want you to be an honorary designer in our show. And I actually just came back to the fashion scene about 2 years ago in 2018. I have just lost an executive position at a nonprofit. So I was like, well, what am I going to do next? So I was like, I am going to go back into my passion. So I started with the trouser, and I marketed myself as the trouser maker. And I had no idea of the West 18th Street Fashion Show. And then I, of course, researched them, studied them. It's like, oh my God, I'm going to be going to Kansas City. I wanted to embellish some red shoes and click my heels. That's what it felt like. And actually being there, it felt like a dream come true. It's actually my third fashion show ever. Sort of, well, it's actually one of my largest collections of work, 21 pieces, and I can't wait until the release of the movie. So I want to let everybody go see it at the Boulevard. Yes, I'm excited.
I think we're all excited to see it here in just a little bit. And that brings us to Peregrine, who needs very little introduction here in Kansas City, but there are people watching us from around. Peregrine Honig, artist, went to the Kansas City Art Institute, has been on TV shows, TV series. She's created art around the world. She has pieces in galleries around the country, in permanent collections around the country and world. We've worked with Peregrine a couple of times. I could literally talk for hours about Peregrine, but that's not why we're here, as much as she would love that. But Peregrine, you started the West 18th Street Fashion Show, right?
It was actually started by a mother and a daughter, kind of the way that Missy is talking, that they were just showing off the work that they were making. They had a small boutique. And then when they moved off of West 18th Street, they just didn't continue it. So they had asked me to model some of their work, and this was 20 years ago. And so I just kind of kept it going. And I was interested in it as a community event, and I was interested in it just kind of becoming more interesting. And so in working on it, it just become better and better. It's just got higher and higher quality people on our board that have more experience, and it's something that is about fashion, but it's also about just telling a story with your body. And I just love watching people like Alex move through this spectrum. And I like having the freedom, because we're not a nonprofit, so we don't really answer to a board. We just answer to each other. So just even seeing these faces up on the screen is just like, so I mean, I miss everybody. We were together for 10 days in 19 locations in Kansas City. And so just, sending out 3 letters of invitation. It was the first time this year that we decided to ask people to travel to our show. So you can imagine we really wanted to honor the people that we had asked. And this movie became a great platform. And, there are just all these amazing things that happened. Like, I love Missy's work. I'm so glad that she was able to be on both sides of the wall in this process. I love curating. Like, I love bringing things together. And this is just ultimate. This is the first year that we have something besides photographs and documentation. Like, we have a movie. This is happening. And some of the spaces that we made the movie in, like VanShawn's pieces, were put in a space where within the museum there is a movie theater. So after this is all done or whatever, there are all these opportunities to show the movie within the spaces that they were created in, which is so exciting.
Wow, that's amazing. So I have a question for you specifically, because it's your baby. You're the executive producer, senior artistic director. It's your show. In March, you went from a 100-foot runway, thousands of people, manic costume changes, bodies everywhere, and with the signature on a piece of paper by Mayor Q, which none of us disagree with, that was dashed. I don't want to take you to that spot. I want to take you to what inspired you to say, fuck it, we're going to do a movie. And how did you get to, that's just, my brother's in the entertainment industry. To put together a movie with this many moving parts, in this many different places, in this time frame, is crazy. The idea that you could do it, and now that the filming's done, you're in production, that, it seems like it's all on schedule. Congratulations for all that. But what led you to that idea? And just tell us about that, because I think that's such an amazing thing.
Well, I guess it is sort of something that I've had a lot of hand in in growing, but I definitely don't believe that it's mine. Like, I really don't. And I would completely credit the decision to turn it into a movie with my faith in my board and my board's faith in me to make good decisions at the last minute. And I, you know, and I have the group of people that are on our board for the West 18th Street Fashion Show, which is its own living, breathing entity. That includes Brooklyn and April. April works with the mayor, so we kind of knew what was going on like a little bit beforehand. And she's an amazing communicator. A couple of people are like, let's wait until next year. But I was sitting in New Orleans, and we were on a Zoom meeting, and we were all like, Missy, who has the brain of a designer, so she's saying we can't. I was thinking, oh, we could do it at the promenade in front of the World War I Museum and light it with cars. And Missy's like, no, we won't be able to see the garments well enough. It's too far away. So, we're all just like talking and thinking. And yeah, I said, well, let's make a documentary and let's show it at the drive-in. And I could see like equal parts horror and excitement on everybody's face. And when you have a really good group of people and you have it's not over, so I don't want to screw anything up, but I was sat on my hands, and when I got the director of photography that I wanted, it was unbelievable. And when I got the director that I wanted, it was just unbelievable. And it did, in the 10 days that we had to film, it rained on the one day we gave ourselves off, and then it poured rain the day we were done. Like, that takes a lot of people and a lot of high quality spiritual behavior to make something like this come together, because, it is definitely, it's trade. I mean, none of us are millionaires. And if we were, we'd probably spend more money than we ever made to make our art. Like,
Right.
So, which is kind of awesome, because I cannot believe, even during this pandemic, the level of support, because we don't have $10,000 for catering, but we had like 2 restaurants a day feeding our crew and our models. Like, even if it was at cost, everybody did the best that they could.
Right. And it's been an amazing thing to watch. And I'm so glad I was able to jump in and help a little bit.
Yeah, thank you.
And I'm thrilled to talk to you all tonight. So let's open up to more of a panel discussion now. This is more for the designers. Did you all design garments or your things differently, knowing that it's going to be seen on a big screen as opposed to the runway? Did that factor into your designs at all, your thought process at all? And VanShawn, you mentioned 21 pieces. Did you have are they all shown in the movie, or would you just have that many available and they showed what they wanted to? So I guess there's 2 questions, but we'll start with VanShawn on
that. Well, I wanted to ensure that each piece would be seen in the film. Besides the one piece, which was an addition, very last minute, I made for myself. But so I'm not in the film, so only one piece will be missing. Every other piece, yes, will be present. Now, did I sort of go for the gusto because it was going to be a film? Definitely. Indeed. Yes, for sure. No doubt.
That's awesome. Alexandra or Missy, you unmuted yourself. Did you design differently? Did you think differently when you're creating these pieces? Did you have pieces you already made? Or tell me about that. I'm just really curious about that whole process.
Ooh, I had 0 designs. I came into this film by happenstance. Because I'm a designer behind the scenes, I literally came on board to help with the communication with designers from, expectations from what we wanted for a show. And when that turned into a movie, we all turned into film crew. And so, as with any film, things happen behind the scenes that you aren't in control of. And there was an opening that came for a designer for a scene that wasn't being filled anymore. And, you know, I literally reached out to Peregrine and was like, so what are we going to do now that we have this opening for this filming day? And, you know, she was throwing out ideas of what she thought. And I was just like, well, you know, I have a couple of designs that I haven't like shown. And then she was like, yes. And I was like, okay. And it literally happened just like that. I happen to have a couple of designs that I've never shown before. I made them for an opportunity that never presented itself. And I thought it fit well within the theme of what we were going for. And, you know, they were already made. And then it literally just birthed itself like that. So I am happenstance. Like, it was very, very serendipitous.
Very cool.
Even the space that Missy's work was in, like, it was perfect because it was perfect for her work. It was like, I mean, it was just meant to be. It was incredible.
Wow. And then Alexandra, what did you design differently? Did you change ideas? Did you get inspired because of a movie as opposed to a runway show?
I pretty much stuck with what was originally designed because that was where my heart was at. And I think there were some elements that we added to make there be more open to it. So it's pretty fun process to see how, you know, things go from idea in your mind, you know, to your drawings and then like tangible.
Yeah, it's kind of hard to switch gears at the last minute, wouldn't it be, Alex? Like,
yeah.
Yeah.
I got through it. We all got through it. So that's the main thing. And I am so excited to see what everybody has created. Like, I can't wait. Usually there's like a sneak peek, but you know, for now it's just all a secret surprise.
Yeah. Loose lips, cheap chips. So we definitely have been like keeping it under wraps for our designers and models and things like that.
Yeah, it's called an NDA.
Hi guys, I'm April Dion. I'm the Director of Communications, Marketing and PR. So entering a little bit later, but I'm happy to join you guys today. And thanks for having us.
Well, thanks, April. Let me introduce you real quick. April Dion, she just mentioned, is the executive, is in charge of communications. She's also in charge of communications for Kansas City, Missouri, which I think you have a lot of different clients. You're very effective at your work. You just posted that you increased LinkedIn followers in KCMO almost threefold in just a year with Chris Hernandez, who's a neighbor of mine, which I'm going to have to give him some credit for that when I see him next time I want. What's it like working with such crazily different, from the outside, crazily different disparate organizations and entities? You have the suits at City Hall, and then you have the artists at a fashion show. What's that like to work in those different types of environments?
Yeah, well, it's not, honestly, what people frequently have to understand is that when you work for the city of Kansas City, you are a resident. So just like my peers, just like you and anyone else, we're residents. So we speak for being a part of the community, but we also speak, you know, as the city of Kansas City. So a lot of the things that affect the residents are affecting us as well.
Mm-hmm.
And then also, it's very important that I clear up that I work for the city of Kansas City full time. That's my job. And everything that I say in this is not a statement on behalf of the city of Kansas City, Missouri. It's coming from me personally as a disclaimer. But, you know, it's they're two different type of, and they're also not a client of mine as well. I work for the city of Kansas City, and I own a business called April Communicates, where I do consulting for marketing and PRs, particularly in entertainment and fashion. And so it's nice to have the best of both worlds, you know, to be able to work full time and do the city work where I'm working more on the political side, using my background in pre-law, political science, communications, and then also being able to be a part of the arts world, which is very important, which we've seen also have a decrease as far as funding lately. That is very important to support.
Right. And then what kind of led you, and I know, you know, when I take on clients, I interview them as much as they interview me, right? What led you to work with the West 18th Street Fashion Show? That's, you know, it's a really neat place to be involved with. What led you to say that's really somebody I'm going to work with and do good things with?
You know what? That is a really good question. Honestly, I started with the West 18th Street Fashion Show years ago. I mean, Peregrine can probably tell you the year, but I know I always wanted to. I used to be a model. I started as a model when I was a teenager. I was signed with Wilhelmina. And so I started very young. And I used to intern in LA. I would work for BT, NBC Universal every other summer. So I would always miss the West 18th Street Fashion Show. I never got to actually model in it until I got older, towards the end of my college years. And there was one summer that I happened to be here. And that summer happened to be the year that they were actually doing a photo shoot, or actually a commercial with Mercedes-Benz Fashion. Or I'm sorry, not Mercedes-Benz Fashion Week, although I've modeled for them, but it was for Mercedes-Benz, Aristocrat Motors locally. And so I got to model in that campaign. And so from there, I continued to keep my connection and my relationship very tight with the West 18th Street Fashion Show. And once I moved back from Los Angeles, it was very important to me to not be a part of the brain drain. We see that a lot. A lot of us grow our talents. We learn here in Kansas City, we grow here, but then we leave and we take our talents with us to New York or LA or all these big fancy places. And I wanted to pour that back into my own community here with all the experience that I had developed working in production for NBC, BET, and Extra, and all these other big companies I got to work for.
That's very cool. That's very, very cool stuff. Real quick, I'm going to do some business here for everybody. If you're watching this now or on YouTube or LinkedIn, there's a link to buy tickets from the Eventbrite right there at the bottom. It's in the comments. I posted that there earlier. But please support these people by buying a ticket. If you have a business or an organization, Celeste will absolutely take your phone call to become a sponsor, even at this late date. If you're watching, any questions or comments, please post them below. We'll be happy to answer them as best we can. What did Marsha just hit the space bar or something? There's an actual comment there. But I asked April before you got on. I asked the designers if they changed their designs and their examples with the idea going from a runway show to a movie, a big screen. And this question kind of for you and Peregrine and maybe Missy, but if either of you have questions about that, have you, other than obviously Summer in Hindsight's a name change for this year in particular, how have you changed your marketing or your message in preparing for the public launch of it? And what's been the response from those people you've talked to about it and things like that?
Oh, big change. Because like I said, I come from a background where this entertainment, I got to see those really cool press kits and media kits that we would send out, like working for NBC Universal, we would send out these media kits for the television shows that they were going to show. And so I brought that to West 18th Street last year. You can see it if you go to our Instagram page. You can see examples of those press kits that I was showing to our communications committee. Last year was the first year out of our 19 years at that time. Now it's 20 years, but 19 years that we had a communications committee. And that was very important to me as a woman and a woman of color, to make sure that we made more space at the table for younger professionals, especially a diverse set of professionals, to come to the table and to be able to practice their skills and communications and get their foot in the door as it relates to public relations. And so this year, we started with the communications committee, but we had to completely redirect. And with the communications committee, that means we created media kits. We would meet each week. We would film. Basically, it was going to be a behind the scenes story that was going to be told as we did last year. We shared a lot of footage last year and recorded a lot of stories. And that plan completely went to, it's just gone because we had to redirect. But we still have a media kit, and it's pretty cool. And I might be able to show it to you, but I would have to step off screen to go grab it for you guys.
Oh.
Would you like to see it?
Yeah, go get it. We put it together before the pandemic, and it's awesome.
Okay, hopefully you guys don't mind my background. It's kind of crazy.
Peregrine, have you changed, outside of what April's going to show us, what kinds of things have you, at the board level and then working with the designers, have you changed, when you talk to the designers, have you changed your message to them at all?
I've been behind the camera, so I'd sort of like, you just have to add more salt and more sugar and more color if you are doing film instead of live. So in my, we use this energy, my business partner and I, Alexis Bergrabi, to advertise like our most luxurious and beautiful garments that we get into the store. So it was an opportunity for movement, and that was something that I know Calvin Arsenia is our musical director. So just kind of reminding the designers that things were going to keep moving, that it wasn't just a walk. That like even with VanShawn, I was just like, what do you want to tell your models to think about when they're moving? Because they're going to be moving not just one runway, but we're going to have to ask them to take takes. We're going to have to be going in different directions. And so it's sort of like you're painting this 10,000 foot mural. Like you just have to sort of focus and move in and out. It's very fun, and it's very it's great to just, it's like watching flowers bloom, like because you just didn't know what you were going to get until it got to the table, came out of the earth, if you will. So just like even with Missy, we have a singer, a really great performer, and Missy made her a garment. So there's all of these things that are weave in and out of necessity, which clothing is a necessity. It protects our body, but just a necessity in this very large, moving, visual experience. And Jeremy Osborne, our director of photography, is like the sweetest, most chill person, and everything he filmed felt like I was looking at him. Like, just incredible. Yay, our media kit.
Hey, yeah. So I just want to kind of show from where we were last year to where we are this year. So this happens to be the media kit that we sent out last year, which was really cool. We had a little bit more time to invest personally to be in person. So this is how you can see how we really had to deviate from the more physical aspect to the more virtual aspect. Last year, we were able to actually get together and put together these kits. I had the idea of sending basically the whole media kit and making it very easy for you guys, the media, to be able to just run it as is. And so we filmed a lot of footage. We took pictures. We put everything that you would need, the media, on a USB, basically drive that was in a bottle, like a message in a bottle. And so that kind of went along with our theme last year, Summer in Hindsight. And Peregrine actually wrote out she has beautiful handwriting. And so she actually wrote out in here, Summer in Hindsight. I'm sorry, Summer during last year, and she put the date on there. So it was really beautiful if you can really see it. I know it's kind of a bit of a shadow, and I keep it packaged here. And that idea, and we also sent those out in these kits here. Like this was the envelope that we sent it out. So we did everything from start to finish. This is the content, the photo shoot that we captured. I produced. Jeff Everett was the actual photographer. We had our models and everything. And so we sent it out in these beautiful blue packages. That idea was it stemmed from this. I don't know if you guys were around or remember the Style Network. It was the NBC Universal Television Network, and they had a show a long time ago called Empire Girls with Adrienne Baline, who's currently on The Talk. I think that's one of those shows. But yeah, this is the media kit that they had previously. So this kind of gave us an example of how to package it. People have gone away from media kits like that now. So I wanted to bring it back to that old school, getting something in the mail. That's exciting. This year, we have these cool little mailers. They're circular. And so when you open them up and you pull it out, you get your bag that's I actually have disinfected everything. I'll have to re-disinfect this. I sprayed everything down with Lysol. But you get your bag and you will see that you have these really cool glasses that our graphic designer actually found, Gabby DeFozo. And so here's the glasses. You would think that they go like this, but actually it's upside down, because you can see right here that this is how it goes. It has a kind of a pearl on the end here, and it's reflective. So it kind of reminds you of summer in hindsight, like the summer is behind us now. So, or Peregrine can kind of explain more to what she thought that was kind of a cool idea. So
those
that goes
are so
out.
cool.
Yeah.
They remind me of that show from the 90s. There was a Cosby Show spinoff, and the guy always wore the coolest sunglasses.
Different
Yeah, he always had the coolest sunglasses, didn't he?
Yeah, makes you think of that. And then it comes, of course, with our flyer, and there's Summer in Hindsight. And I usually send a personal note. If the media has already shared a story regarding us, then I like to always make sure I treat our media great. So I'll put in a pin like this one's going to Fox 4, basically, for covering us. Marcus officer already covered a story. So inside of his media kit is just a little pin that says thank you, a special thank you on there. And it says, your storytelling is pivotal to the city, Marcus, and thank you for your support. And so got that packaged in there. So everything is very personal, the way that we reach out to the community, because we are personal, we are part of the community, and we are of the arts. So everything is also very artistic as well.
Absolutely. Missy, looks like you're ready to say something. I was going to kind of rephrase that question for you, since you're the designer liaison. Obviously, it's a movie, not a show, a runway show this year. What have you been talking to the designers about as far as changing their looks, or did you have those conversations, or leave it up to the designers to do that?
Between Brooklyn and I, we were wanting to make sure that the designers were aware of the change of plans, but that was like a really big, not even a 180. It was just like a big, like a 360. We came back to where we started. So just making sure that they were aware of what is going to happen at this point. Wanting the designers to know, to make sure that their garments show the best sides of their designer selves on film. So wanted them to know that their garments need to translate really well on film. And think about, even ways to accentuate like hair and makeup, this whole styling of the garment with accessories, shoes. I mean, it's down to like head to toe looks. And normally when you're making a runway, the clothes are normally samples, because they're not, 100% finished, or they're not as finished as you would be if you were to get them off the rack, or to a client. But so you wanted to make sure that the garments are looked well from every angle, and so we wanted that to be translated to the designers. So I mean, the only difference is to like whatever you were thinking, think bigger to make it go large on the screen.
And for Alexandra and VanShawn, you guys talked about this a little bit earlier, but I was curious, do you hope that your lines, your examples, what do you hope they communicate to the people watching them on the screen? Like when they see your work on the screen, what do you hope the reactions are? What do you think the reactions will be? Do you think about that at all when you're designing these pieces? Alexandra, we'll start with you on that one.
I want people to be drawn to it and just make them think, because there are some elements of my designs that are a little bit different, and they might look back at you.
What?
She's good teasing us. You'll know what she means when you see her work.
Yeah.
And VanShawn, what about you? What were you thinking? What were you hoping people react to or see when they see your works on screen?
Well, I was hoping that they would see the culture of New Orleans, for sure.
Oh.
Yeah.
They better.
I was expecting one of you guys to say, I was hoping people want to buy them, but that's maybe just that me and the sales part.
You know what? I think the NDA has, everybody a little tight-lipped.
Well, definitely.
But no, honestly, though, with the designers, look, I think it's a little bit different because, they had to, and this is kind of going back to Missy. Previously, it was a show, a one-day show, and it's 100-foot runway. And so they got to show their work all at once. This here is a production, so we're filming this months, about a month in advance, and it's going to come out a couple of months later. And so it's a long stretch of a yard, between what can be shared and what can't. It's a little bit challenging,
Sure, I understand. It's also exciting because the show's going to live on forever, right? I mean, it's not like it's going to show once and be gone.
Exactly.
So all of these works, all the work you all are doing, are going to be memorialized for as long as digital production capabilities are there. So that's
that is the goal, Jason. That's what we're going for.
That to me is like a really, really cool thing.
Keep it from being inferior.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And it's great. Like the theme that we started with when it was just going to be a runway show was the Bauhaus. And so everybody, without any disclosure, like everybody really explored this idea of like design for the people. And I can't think of a better platform than a drive-in movie, because it truly is kind of this blue collar, accessible thing. Like it's both, you know, inclusive and exclusive. It's special, but really our tickets are free to $500. So it's the same with our runway show. You can always come and see it for free, but if you want to sit, there are different tiers. And I really feel like that's where our show is so awesome and so inclusive. There are people that have been coming to our show since they were like 14 years old, just standing on the street. And then they become models, and then they become part of the board, and then they become designers. It's just like, you know, you just learn so much from all different places in this project.
And April disappeared. I have a question that you may or may not be able to answer. I understand the NDA. What was the so far? And there's been several locations revealed already. But what was the favorite locations to shoot at, or can you not say at this point, or don't you want to say at this point? Oh, Missy's looking like, oh, I can't.
I can say that there was definitely a lot of different locations. And I know for a fact, Brooklyn and I were definitely excited about one in particular that we didn't get a chance to go to because it was during the week and we were like doing our regular 9 to 5 work hours. I don't know, like, okay.
We've already said about the Vidasaftra, so because we posted about that, and that definitely, and without revealing a lot, just, you know, there are so many museums in the city that were so generous and trusted us so much to open their doors. I cannot believe how amazing it was to have such iconic Kansas City spaces be sensitive to the fact that there were not people in these public spaces and trust us to do something within these spaces. So we had 19 locations in 10 days, and a lot of them were spaces that had never been filmed in before. And it was just such a testament to what a great city Kansas City is. You know, so awesome. And also a testament to how awesome and how trusted our board is and our project is. I mean, I don't really know any other project in Kansas City where these museums would just open their doors and allow us to film in there for, you know, in some cases like 10 to 12 hours.
Yeah, and you use the word cultural capital, I think, with Celeste someplace. And I think that really, when you talk about shooting in 19 locations in 10 days, even if they're locations that are made for it and geared towards it, that's an incredible undertaking. Two shots, two locations a day. Because you're not shooting one little 30-second scene at these places. You're shooting hours of footage. And like you talked about, refilming, and then, so that's an amazing, you guys have done an amazing thing in a really short window. To go from zero to this is just an amazing thing. We've been on for quite a while now. I just want to kind of wrap up with, are there any last thoughts, words that any of you want to share about the experience, things that went well, things that went poorly, and just what your thoughts and excitements are for the project as it's nearing the release date, and what that looks like. And let's start with the designers, Alexandra and VanShawn. Maybe you have thoughts about, you know, the highs and lows and your thoughts going forward with the release.
It was pretty stressful knowing that we're making these designs that are going to be on film versus being, you know, seen down a runway. And I'm just really grateful that everything worked out and that, you know, there's going to be a finished product to look forward to.
Very cool. VanShawn, what about you?
Well, for me, it was all about timing for me. Um, and there were various different challenges. Uh, there was even a moment, and probably several moments, as all creatives have, where you're like, oh my God, I can't do it. I'm not going to do it. Oh, I quit. I give up. This is too much. I can't handle it. No, really. Uh, there were those times. The stress level had become so high. I had a panic attack. One day, another medical challenge, and then the next day, another. And then I had to get my diet in order. All that to say was, when I look back, I said, wow, there were a lot of challenges that happened because when I got to Kansas City, it was like day after day. Uh, there was great news and much more excitement about the movie and the total outcome and how great it's going to be. And even the challenges that you have with trying to do things in a short window. So all of it coming together and happening was like a roller coaster. Now we're in the cruise, we're parking, uh, the ride, so to say. And again, I am so enthused and excited, and I can't wait to see the overall outcome. I'm excited about October 16th.
Yeah, it's going to be exciting. Missy, what are your thoughts about that?
I am like having to be behind the scenes and also getting the chance to spread my designer wings for this particular show or this particular movie has been like undeniably a very my design career. And I even the title of the site is so telling because like listening to everything VanShawn has said, listening to Alex when she's talking about, like the anxiety or, coming into making things for this particular event. And then there's a whole pandemic. Like, VanShawn, you're coming from Louisiana and there was hurricanes coming. I mean, it was just like, we have so many things thrown at us, and it just like really just shows the perseverance and the dedication when you put your mind to something that you can literally do anything. And we're not even done, but it's just like the dedication of everybody on the team to like be so forward thinking, to be so adamant about their particular positions and doing what they set out to do, setting those goals and getting them done. It was amazing to just see where we are right now. So like I really like have no more words because I'm just so shocked because it was literally just like, well, let's just, push it out. Let's do this. Let's do that. They're like, well, let's do a movie. And we're like, yeah, let's do a movie.
Because why not?
Why not?
Right?
Why not do a movie in 2020? Why not?
In a pandemic.
It's funny as well as amazing. April, what are your thoughts about the roller coaster? And you have a lot of work yet to do because the filming work is kind of done, the production stuff, but now it's the real drive for the publicity for the ticket sales and things like that, to make sure everybody knows that the movie's out there.
Yeah. It was from the beginning to the end. It was trippy because last year we decided on the name. Peregrine decided on the name. So we were already set on what the name was going to be. And then come January, we hit the ground running, having meetings and getting prepared. By March, we'd already selected our designers. We knew how we wanted to select the designers. We wanted to give them a call and make it personal. and record that. Like we had the whole plan. I had a communications plan out to record it, to do a whole beat behind the scenes, a BTS, and kind of telling the stories from the designers from the start to the finish. And so we got to record the designers via Zoom, getting that call, or some of the designers were personally invited from previous years. And so everything was very personal. And then the pandemic hit, and the pandemic hit us on all levels. I mean, as you mentioned, and I wasn't going to bring this into, but having working for the city, that was a whole nother stress, and then having this, and all of us have our jobs outside of this. I mean, the arts is lovely, but a lot of us can't sustain on the arts alone. And so a lot of us have full-time jobs. And so just trying to figure out how we're going to live life and have our children at home, as well as do a film in a pandemic where they're constantly changing the stipulations about how you can move about and such. It was a lot, but it turned out swell. And for me, moving forward, yeah, you're right. That's where the hard part starts, where now it's about the promotion, and it never stopped being hard. I mean, I manage the social media page, so we have to get out all of our sponsors in addition to all of these photos that we got behind the scenes. It's a lot to get out. But we can do it. We can do it, right, guys?
We
You've been doing it really well so far.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And Peregrine, let's wrap up with you here real quick. What's the roller coaster been like with you? And do you see much sleep in the next 6 weeks for you?
I have to be totally honest. It's been a pleasure. Like, of course there's stress, but there is always stress. And that I have this group of people that I can ask questions of, that we have such a healthy and critical and dynamic relationship with. The saddest thing about it is our reward to this hard project is we've always gotten to sit at restaurants, like go to Tannin, drink wine, and have a meal together. And it's just like, I guess, I think the hardest part has been just missing these people that I like working with and seeing and laughing with, because no matter how high quality the technology is, there's just this humanism that's missing. And I believe that for me, that has been the hardest part, not the making and not the pivoting and not the overcoming fear, but just the not being able to sit across the table from Brooklyn and April and Missy and Jeff and even Celeste, and just I feel like that's been the biggest challenge, and that's everyone's challenge. I mean, it's across the board. So when people are like, oh, it must be so hard to be an artist right now. Like, I think about how hard it must be to be a doctor or a mom or a dad or a teacher or anyone. We're all doing our best, and so I feel like the West 18th Street Fashion Show is just an example of everybody doing their best. I'm proud to be a part of it at all.
Well, you've done an amazing job with it so far. I'm really looking forward to the movie on Friday, October 16th. Go to the West 18th Street Fashion Show.com. There's links to the tickets there. There's also bios of all of the designers, which is really fascinating to read. You can also, I think you're linked to everybody's Instagram page there as well. You can see the sponsors. You can kind of figure out where some of the shoots are at based upon who sponsored the event. I kind of, that's not hidden. It's out there on your website, so it's not a.
Yeah, and we sneak it in our stories.
There's some breadcrumbs.
Absolutely, breadcrumbs. And there's not 19 locations listed there any place, but you can get an idea of. If you look at the website, you get an idea of some of the types of locations they went to. Look at the social media posts. You've seen where they were. Fox did the story in front of the Kansas City Museum, referenced the Nelson, those types of places, which are never open to this type of event. Through this crazy thing that's happened to everybody in the world, you've had the opportunity, and I think we will all be benefiting from it, to see these places in a completely different light than we'd ever be able to see them otherwise. So I want to thank you, as somebody who appreciates interesting things and the arts in Kansas City, for producing such a thing this year. I think it's going to bring the fashion show and fashion industry to light in a completely different way to people who appreciate the arts. And thank you all so much. If you're watching, if you have questions for Peregrine or April or any of the designers, again, the website has links to everybody. You can always reach us through messages here. I'm not going to plug anything else. Thank you all so much for watching. Have a great evening, and we'll see you all soon. Thank you so much.
Thanks for having us.